Technology never sits still, and I think that's become even more apparent as the 21st century has worn on into the 2020s. And one of the big topics that you see written about and people talk about is AI. Ooh, what is it? Artificial intelligence. Is it Skynet? Is it nefarious? Is it useful? Is it just a buzzword? Is it nonsense? These are all the questions that people ask when they come across this term AI, artificial intelligence. For communicators, AI is actually starting to become something that they can use in their efforts to better and more effectively reach audiences, especially as we enter an era in which communications will become targeted to such a degree that we might even use the word personalized to describe them. To talk about that with me today is Josh Bachynski. He's an innovator and thought leader in technology and artificial intelligence. He's got a big, long bio, but suffice to say, he's talked about Google search and ethics for TEDx Talks. He's an independent AI researcher and has done some pretty interesting work in that field, including working on what might be the first self-aware AI prototype named Cassandra. He's written a book called The Zombies, which uses the always popular zombie trope as sort of a metaphor for society, and a bunch more. And obviously there'll be links in the transcript and episode notes to Mr. Bachynski's stuff. But anyway, he's here to talk to me today about all this. Hi, Mr. Bachynski. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Derek. How you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you, Mr. Bachynski, for talking to me, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Digital Signage Done Right. Don't forget you can subscribe, and you can follow along with a full transcript on the Vizix website. Just go to the resources and podcasts subsection on the Vizix website. Whether you're using digital signage or not, our podcast gives you practical tips for communications and content to better engage your audience. I'm Derek DeWitt. Welcome to Digital Signage Done Right. So, Mr. Bachynski, AI, this is quite the buzzword these days. People are talking about it. Some people seem to be especially freaked out. ChatGPT has been in the news a lot lately. And I know Google just recently launched their Bard, and this has become quite the thing. But really, when we're talking about AI, let's kind of just give a basic overview here. We're really talking about not the same thing all the time, right? There are three different types of AI.
First off, Derek, by all means, call me Josh.
Okay.
Mr. Bachynski is my dad.
Right.
And he's crazy. So call me Josh, first off. Yeah. And yeah, no, I loved your intro. You're totally right with your questions. You know, is it friend or foe? Is it Skynet or is it vaporware? And there's many different ways you could break down AI. There's artificial general intelligence, the idea when AI becomes smart enough to be comparable to human intelligence in various factors in many ways. Some would argue that has already been attained. I've already built a self-aware AI prototype, and ChatGPT, GPT-4, as you mentioned, has already surpassed human levels on various testing grounds, including the LSAT, for example, in which it gets 90% on the LSAT, which is higher than the human average. So it's really hard to measure. And then that's the difference between that. And then there's artificial narrow intelligence, which is what most people would argue ChatGPT is. It's a narrow intelligence. It's a large language model that is what's called an NLP and NLG. So a natural language processor. It'll process natural language requests and commands you give to it in just plain old English or French or German, whatever languages it is in its corpus. And it's got all the major ones in its corpus. And then it's a natural language generator. It will generate language in, again, all those languages in its corpus, which not only includes things like English, French, and German, but start using your imagination when I say it'll also produce HTML, it'll produce CSS, it'll produce C language, it'll produce Python, it'll produce PHP. It'll produce Excel. It'll produce, in the future, it will produce images. It will produce movies. Midjourney is the leading AI right now producing images, in my opinion. It just produces some jaw-droppingly beautiful images in Midjourney. But of course, there's all kinds of things to discuss there, like do they have the copyright to that art they use to train the model?
Right. I mean, yes, that's always one of the tricky things, Like we mentioned this. Obviously, we our company makes digital signage, and I know people are very tempted to just go out there onto the web and grab an image, let's say, because it's a visual medium, and grab any kind of an image, and the ethics of it and legalities of it are a little bit gray sometimes because you're not using the image for profit. You're not profiting from it. You're just using it to sort of add visual interest to, hey, sign up for your 401k, or hey, muffins are in the cafe today, or whatever. And yet, you should at least credit the person. And now we get into this with AI. And I know that a lot of people are starting to, I'm friends with some artists who are convinced that commercial illustration is essentially dead. And why would anybody pay a human to make an image when we can just have AI generate one for us?
Yeah, and that's a perfect example, Derek, of how AI, they say AI is not going to take your job, at least not yet. It's going to be a smart person who kind of got in with a smart AI on the ground floor. And yeah, those industries are going to change. And so I have a slightly more positive perspective of it because I've been working in this industry for quite some time. I can see what it can do, and I see what it can't do. I've pushed it to its limits, both visually and in terms of the writing, the fiction it'll generate, the nonfiction it'll generate, and it's pretty good. But it really still needs a human to guide it. And so what it's really good at is the spitballing process, the brainstorming process. It's like you can go on a Midjourney, you can fire in 10 text prompts and get 40 ideas back, and go to your designer and say, this is what I want, make this, or I love this style, these colors, but I don't like what's here. And then I think it's going to make a lot of people's lives a lot easier. But for sure, if there's some artists out there in music, in video production, in illustration, and in writing who are charging, $200 an hour, $400 an hour, $500 an hour, some healthy per hour costs, because they have the monopoly right now on the talent required to do those things, AI is going to change that game. So for example, my wife and I are writing a novel. And we want to have, it's not a graphic novel, but we want to have some illustrations in it. We want to make it as beautiful as possible. And so instead of going on to Upwork and hiring an artist with the talent, an illustrator with the talent to do this for $5,000, I hired one for $500. So you might be like, oh, well, that's kind of bad for the artist. They lost, whatever that is, 90% of their, of the, what they could have made on that contract. And I'd say, yeah, but it's going to take them a tenth of the time too. So it's going to democratize that. It's going to enable a lot of people who couldn't compete in that market to compete in that market. Yeah, and the people who are charging, we might want to say, maybe exorbitant, or maybe they were enjoying larger commissions and consultation contracts on this. It's going to allow them to work faster with the AI, and they could do more projects, and they can even just use the AI to make their illustrations even that much better and go that much further with it.
That's a very interesting idea. This concept of using it as sort of either as a starting point, as you say, the spitballing process, or for idea generation, or as sort of a helper, because it is a tool when all is said and done. Now I know we see some stories of some college student just got a ChatGPT to write their paper for them. And I think, okay, well, then maybe you should, come up with a good test and double check that those people actually have the knowledge in their heads that you want them to have.
Exactly.
But like a friend of mine who's an illustrator, he's quite up in arms about it, specifically the copyright issue, because they are using copyrighted material very often to train the AIs, and yet I don't know that you can argue that if you took an AI generated image, if you could pull out each copyrighted element, you know what I mean, and say, is this shadow on the hand copyrightable? I wonder about this. And, I'm a writer, so he said, oh, yeah, see how you feel when, it starts taking over your stuff and writing your stuff. And my argument back to that was, it won't write my stuff. I write my stuff. My writing is my writing, and nobody writes like me. Only I write like me.
You're exactly right. And the problem with this is, in the future, this is going to shift towards that side of the argument. Yes, to answer your question, mathematically, statistically, there is an exact number of how many tokens it used and how much diffusion it used for the model of that particular piece of art. However, I would ask, well, why? How did it get your art in the corpus to begin with? Either it was stolen by someone else, and then that database was used in the corpus as a free crawl, because all it does is crawl the web, and/or pay to use stock images the way anyone else pays to use stock images. And another argument is that, yes, AI can generate all this stuff. And yes, it's going to get better at doing it. And yes, it's going to put some low-level players in every game out of business. But your point is correct, is that humans just have to get better. Like if your writing is, I'm sorry, I'm going to say something very blunt, so I don't mean to offend anyone, but if your art or your writing is so low level that the AI can reproduce it effectively, then you need to step up your game. You need to get more quality. You need to get more artistry in what it is you're doing.
I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, we see these content articles. I don't even call them articles. They're content, pieces, and they're so carelessly written. They might as well be done by an AI, and yet I can't help but think that the AI will probably at least spell everything correctly, punctuate things correctly. Like, that's my hope, is that maybe at least this bizarre semi-Germanic capitalization that has crept into even news articles now. I'm getting tired of seeing all common nouns capitalized. You don't capitalize something for emphasis in English unless you capitalize the whole word. Like, who doesn't know this? The AI knows it.
It would. Yeah. I mean, the content farm market has already existed for the last 15 years. Because I come from the SEO world, and that's what you do. That's what you used to do to rank in Google, is you just hire someone very cheaply overseas who knows English. Some of them know it very well. Don't get me wrong. There's some beautiful writers over in India and over in the Philippines. I love those folks. I'm not dissing them in any way, shape, or form. But some of them don't know English very well. Even in North America, some of them don't know English very well. And they're just producing low quality content because that's all you needed to do. For your marketing, for your signage, that's never been good enough, quite frankly. For your communications, in my opinion, that's never been good enough. And if you're relying on those kind of weak things, it's like relying on fast food as your main diet, and then a sickness comes around, you don't have the vitamins in your system to fight it off. It's the exact same kind of problem in my mind.
That's a very nice metaphor. So that's kind of the state of things as we speak right now in AI, as it is starting to creep at possibly an accelerated pace into the everyday world. And like we've seen with various communication methods, the website, you know how it is now. If you don't have a website, I don't believe you're a real business. Sorry, dudes.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have a website? I don't know. Especially like a hotel. A hotel that doesn't allow me to look at the rooms or book online, I'm not going to stay there. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I've become techie, I guess, in this regard.
Yeah.
And now we see a lot about how, because we're at this cusp of AI is improving, it's really starting to, it's hit this sort of sea change moment where it's become good enough and smart enough, and it's learning at such a pace, like you said, it's getting 90% on the LSAT, some of them, that as a tool, we're going to, of course, see more and more people use AI tools for various purposes. And then we have this, we're sort of on the cusp of someday Web 3.0 is going to come around, and that's going to transform, again, the way that we communicate with each other and how machines communicate with other machines and so on via the internet.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, we start to see how everything seems like we're heading towards what one article that was actually written by a person, I think.
Or so they say.
Or so they said. They gave it a byline. That we're heading towards something more like personalized content. And in that, I think we're kind of maybe a little bit talking about like the movie Minority Report, where, you walk in, it scans your eye and goes, hey, how did you like that T-shirt that you bought? And things like this. But we're actually talking about a much more sophisticated thing than that. And that's something I'm starting to see, that there are these what are being called AI-led models for defining audiences and targeting audiences, acquiring audiences, and fine-tuning what you communicate to the audience so that it is relevant and engaging and interesting to every person who walks by. So like in the context of digital signage, everybody who walks by the screen. What does that mean, though? I mean, that's all very interesting, and I read a lot of these articles, but they're very vague, and I feel like some of these people heard some buzz terms, wrote up something, and never really understood it.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I can tell you exactly where it's going. And you're exactly on the right track in terms of Web 3.0 and decentralization. I have a radical statement for you, but I will defend it. The information age is over. The last 20 years has been the information age, with a one-horse race of Google being the de facto search feature for the internet. Rightly or wrongly, without any democratic control of their somewhat benign, but not really that benign, autocracy. Now we're going to have a multi-horse race of search engines and search agents for not the information age anymore. No one's going to make ubiquitous information for everybody, or that statistically is going to be reduced, and it's become personalized, as you're going to mention. And we already see that in the FANG. We already see that in Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. They already use your psychometric data, which is what personal data is. I don't think a lot of people realize that means psychometric data. And this is kind of the scary side of it. And I'm going to talk to you about how small businesses can use the positive side of this in not a scary way. They already use your psychometric data to grift you out of more money by certain slices of percentage points every year. For example, I do martial arts and I'm into throwing knives. I have a target in my garage. I practice throwing knives. And so they lure me with the nicer looking, a Damascus steel throwing knife. And they know exactly my psychometric data, and they know exactly how to get me. Even I know to a very fine degree of how this works. They can get even me to click and buy just a little bit more every year because you're playing chess with an AI. You're playing chess with an AI that knows who you are and what you like and how you tick, and knows how to manipulate you. And that's its purpose, right? So that's kind of the scary aspect of it, how the FANG does it. Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, YouTube, TikTok, they bring you down these dopamine holes and get you addicted. And in doing that, they share all your psychometric data and learn what it is you like. However, this is now becoming more democratized and personalized as well. And so the Web 3.0 connection that you're talking about is exactly the information age is going to end. There's going to be endpoint APIs when you talk about decentralization and personalization that are going to be written by AI for AIs. Everyone is going to have an AI personal assistant. Everyone will have an AI secretary. Derek, in the future, my booking agent won't book with your booking agent. My AI will talk to your AI and tell us dumb humans that we're meeting at this time and just to shut up and do it. And we'll go, okay, AI, sorry. And we'll just meet and be like, are we the humans who are supposed to meet? Our AI's made a play date for us. Like that's the way it's going to be very, very soon, like 2 years. Everyone will talk to Siri. Apple's on this, all over this. Google's all over this, with Android, of course, and with their Google search engine. OpenAI is all over this. Microsoft is all over this. Every single app will be an AI app. Word, Gmail, Excel, everything, right? It's already getting AI worked into it right now. All of it will auto-generate text, auto-read text, auto-edit text, and anything informationally produced, images, music, sound, spreadsheets, calculators, anything you use on a computer will have an AI attached to it, and including most especially your phone. The AI age will be as big as the internet and your phones to society and social media combined, all of those three things combined. And in 5 years, the way we all work, the way we all communicate with information, the way we all search for information, the way we all get information, the way information passes through us, for us, by us, and to us will be completely and utterly dominated by artificial intelligence agents, totally, completely. And that's just the beginning. We can see it in the prompting now that's going on, the prompt engineering that's going on now. So that's what's going to happen. I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. And how can smaller businesses take advantage of this now? Well, you can get onto something like ChatGPT now. And if you can get any of this personal data, if you can get any of this data profiles of your customers or of your demos, not only can you go to ChatGPT or Bing Chat or Google Bard now and ask it, hey, this is my kind of business. What are my target demos? Who buys most? Who buys more? And it will give you accurate information in that regard. You can mine it from that end if you don't know what it is. Vis-a-vis also, if you have the access to the data of your demographics, your demo data in any way, shape, or form, personal data, whatever it is, and say, hey, this is my personal demos. Tell me how to best market to these people, or what kind of images are they going to like the most, or any of those kinds of marketing questions that marketing consultants used to charge, again, a lot to do because they were the gatekeepers of knowledge. Nobody is a gatekeeper of any knowledge anymore, or much less people are a gatekeeper of knowledge. Now, big tech is now all the gatekeepers of knowledge. The way Google is the gatekeeper of knowledge for search for the internet, but now that's blown up to be not a one-horse race anymore. And so that is the bewildering. I don't know if it's a utopia or a dystopia.
I think it's just a topia. Let's just call it a topia.
It's a utopia. It's a place. It's a place for sure. Yeah. It'll be the place that we're all going to be. And it's going to be one heck of a wild ride. But if you want to learn more about how to use ChatGPT for your business, please email me, joshbachynski@gmail.com. If you have any more questions, I can go at length about how you can mine the data from AI now. Like you can do that now. This second, I can help you do it. And or if you already have the data, how you can extrapolate and better convert on that data, market on that data, extrapolate the data, find out more about the data. It's quite remarkable, the democratization that's happening as well. So it's not all just the big boys and big tech playing with it. It's every time they come out with a new GPT, they throw out the older version in open source and everyone can play with it. And so at least that's still happening. Cross your fingers that continues, because that opens the playing field for everybody and anybody to, I don't want to make it sound like it's a money scheme, but it's like the gold rush. That's opening up for anyone, even the small prospectors, to do something special and incredible to some degree. And that's definitely happening now. It all comes down to knowing how the AIs work and the prompt engineering. And I'd love to help show more people about how that works.
Right. Do you think that we are going to see, how do I put this, sort of a blurring between communicating and marketing, if that makes any sense? And what I mean by that is, because we're talking about this in terms of marketing, which is, hey, buy my stuff, buy my services, buy my products. But a lot of, say, internal communications in a large hospital or in a large company like Google. Let's say you're at Google headquarters. They're not selling their employees at anything. They're not saying, hey, buy more water. They're saying, hey, we want you to buy into the lifestyle. We want you to know that these things are available. This is the celebrity chef who's on, call right now. And we're going to see AI even be used for that to some extent. And that's the part that I don't get. How is it going to know when you walk by that you're a cat person, I'm a dog person, so it's going to show you a cat picture and it's going to show me a dog picture? Is it going to become that differentiated?
Yes. Yes, it almost already is. Online, it already is. In the metaverse, if you consider the web also part of the metaverse, which I do, it already is. It's already decentralized in that fashion. And then all we need is Google Glass. Remember that old idea of Google Glass?
Yeah, what happened to that?
They haven't thrown that away. It was just too early. It was just too early to make it cost effective and have the other systems, these advertising psychometric systems, these personalization systems to fit into it to make it worthwhile doing. Everyone's getting back into this game. Apple's getting back into this game. Google's getting back into this game. And it will literally be Minority Report, like you said. Like you'll be walking down the street and you will see ads in front of your eyes. As disgusting as for me personally, that is. Obviously, I have very strong views about the ethics of all of this, but yeah, that's another conversation, which I can go on for a long time, but I'm really biting my tongue. But I can help smaller businesses do that now. You can get the intelligence, you can get the AI thinking about it now for you and giving you ideas and brainstorming now. And then the cohesive systems that just do all this auto-magically is only a couple of years away.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. So how is that going to work? Say in a more practical sense. So let's say I'm in charge of my company's internal communications. And how am I going to use AI tools to target and engage my audience more effectively? How do I do it? What do I do?
Well, I would go into ChatGPT browse version so it can access the web. Also, or Bing Chat or Bard. So use one of the models that has access to the current internet and current information. And then you'd ask it, okay, I do communications for my company. My company's, philosophy is this. Our corporate profile is this. Our mission statement is this. This is the way we like to communicate with our internal employees. What are all the tips and tricks? Tell me everything I need to know about that. Tell me all the ways to make that most maximally effective. Tell me all the things that I'm missing.
So that open, that conversational.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Completely that conversational. I mean, I'd love to show you if I could literally do it right now for you, but it would take a little time for me to type on the keyboard. The other aspect you would do is say, okay, here is our corporate documents detailing our internal communications philosophy and messaging. critique this, please. Let me know how it's good. Let me know how it's bad. How would you improve this? How would you change it? How do the big companies do it? How do Fortune 500 companies do this? How can I improve this? How can I maximize this? And it will give you a ton of ideas of what to do. And then you just take it from there. You start drilling down on the different communication pieces. You say, just for example, it might say, using a more positive approach with positive reinforcement could help boost productivity and brainstorming. And you could say, really, why? Why is that? Show me the scientific studies that prove this. And it'll go, sure, here you are, bop, 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 bop. And it'll show you the scientific studies that prove that positive communications in a Skinnerian sense or a positive operant conditioning sense. And you can also use Consensus for this as well. Consensus is even better. Consensus is an AI search engine only for peer-reviewed journal articles. And it'll give you a consensus. That's why it's called Consensus. It'll say the consensus on your question is yes or no. And you can ask it all kinds of questions if you want to get the answer from actual up to date, up to the bleeding edge date of science, which is my favorite AI of all time. But Google also has access to a lot of this too, right? So you can use Google Bard, you can use Bing Chat, which is not as good, but you can. And you can use OpenAI's Browse, which has a better AI that's smarter and more conversational, but has less access to good information. So, I mean, that's a horse race. They'll get better or worse at it. They'll all be jostling for first position there. Now it's not a one horse race anymore for Google. They are still the de facto search engine, but now everyone is making a search agent, right? So the AI is like the concierge that knows everything and has access to everything for you. And then you just have to watch when the concierge has been paid off to recommend this or that.
Right. It's people are going to totally figure out ways to game the system.
That they already have. Bing, I already did a search the other day, and every single recommendation Bing Chat gave me had a little word ad beside it. And it just slipped into the conversation so sleazy like, right? So I had zero confidence that whatever it was telling me was true. It was just paid to tell me that, oh, Twitter ads are the best ads. Try them here. Like, okay, that's not what I asked Bing Chat. So I immediately stopped using Bing Chat. So I think the consumers, I hope with giant crossed fingers, the consumers are going to show Google, Bing, and OpenAI the right mixture of how to monetize this. It could change the entire Google search ecosystem, right? The entire $100 billion a year empire of profit, that's not revenue, profit that Google clears $100 billion a year in their ads, all from 90% of that from their ads on the first page of Google. That changes. If you have a search agent which answers all your questions for you, they're not showing you the 10 blue links anymore. That is a change of billions and billions of dollars and millions of jobs and millions of businesses that are based on that ecosystem. It's like the ocean is dead, gone. All that's gone, right?
No more fish.
no more water there, no more fish, no more rain, no more any system that comes off of that. It's a huge potentially. Now that sounds very post-apocalyptic, but it could be. It could be a huge change if Google does this wrong, right? So that's why Google's taking their sweet time in getting this out, because they know this is a change to our entire core business where they make secretly all of their money on those ads, those little ads that are at the top of what used to be 10 blue links. Now it's like 6 or 8 organic results and interspersed with all their products in there. You could barely tell what you're clicking on. If this is organic result, did I just cost someone $30 by clicking on them by accident? And those prices are going to do nothing but skyrocket because now they don't have room to recommend 5 or 6 different things, because then they'll be a run-on paragraph in the chat for the AI. Now they're going to recommend the top one. Google ad spend is going to skyrocket, like times 10, times 100. If it was costing you $30 a click to advertise, it's going to cost you $300 a click if they decide to go with that model. We still don't know what they're going to do. And they seem to be putting the boots to it and trying to cool everything off and saying, look, chat cannot replace search for many legitimate reasons, not the least of which it's our business model. But because humans need to look at the results and make a human decision as to who's telling the truth and who's not, and who looks like that's the information I want to consume. That's not the information I want to consume. The AI is pretty good at making these decisions for you, but they've made it so politically correct and so wishy-washy in its answers. For example, I have mild autism, so I don't often understand social scenarios very well. And I was asking it, when I go to business like conferences, and if I stand there with a beer, Do I look better? Do I come off branding wise? Do I come off better or worse? Because again, I have autism. I can't tell. So I'm honestly, earnestly asking the AI to help me. And it used to be able to do that. It helped me a lot. And it could help everyone like me a lot. Even not even people who are on the spectrum are neurospicy. People who are just young, like kids who are just learning stuff and what's socially acceptable. And now it won't answer that question. It refuses to answer that question because it doesn't want to get canceled. OpenAI doesn't want to get canceled. They don't want to come down hard on the wrong side of some issue, even though I'm honestly asking it. I'm like it's up to you to decide whether or not you think having a beer is good for your branding or not. We're an AI assistant. We're not supposed to tell you anything. Don't blame us. Don't sue us. Blah.
Well, and the fact of the matter is that we've managed to sort of paint ourselves into a little bit of a corner, so that there are no right answers anymore, because no matter what, literally, it's raining. Someone out there's now, just because they can make political hay with it, or they're a troll, or what have you, they're going to go, no, it's not. There is no safe answer anymore, and that's going to be a little bit of an issue coming down the road, is if the AIs are too afraid to say anything definitively. On the other hand, maybe that means that people will not rely 100% on them, and they will use them for the tools that they are.
Yeah, until someone comes out, and you'll have a right-wing AI that's going to tell you what you want to hear there, and you're going to have a left-wing AI telling what you want to hear there. And the two thought bubbles, the media bubbles, are never going to talk to each other, and you'll have totally different realities and worlds, even worse than it currently is now.
I know that these idiot calls we need to create a blue state America and a red state America. I mean, this is China Melville's The City and the City, where there are two cities that coexist in the same physical space, but citizens of one city are trained not to notice the other city, and vice versa. This seems to be this kind of direction that a lot of these people are at least suggesting that they want us to go. So then let's assume that happens, because I think something like it will end up happening in an abstract way. Yeah, it's happening. How does one communicate effectively in that kind of a scenario? What I have to say is not, controversial. It's that, hey, look, we have muffins at the cafe on site at our hotel. They're great. Go eat them. They're going to go stale.
Are they gluten-free?
Okay, yeah, we also have gluten-free ones and so on. So how am I supposed to communicate in this kind of bizarre chaos?
I think the good news is that after big tech messes everything up like they do, just because they're moving fast and breaking things to make money, I think they're going to realize the personalization, and either it's going to be this red state, blue state, and it's going to be even more fractured than that. It's going to be Drake fans versus this fans. It's going to be completely
early REM versus late REM.
Exactly. It's going to be so splintered like that, all living in the same space. And it's going to be so hard for communication teams, both internally and externally, to be on brand with their message. And what's going to happen though, is that these personal AIs are going to come up, and the first person who makes an AI, which is what I'm trying to do with my self-aware AI, Cassandra, because this is the only way you make an AI that has discerning judgment. You have to give it discerning judgment. You have to make it self-aware.
Right. You have to bake it into the sauce.
Of course. Yeah. And they're doing it. It kills me. I did this years ago, and I can't get anyone to listen because it's so far-fetched, but this is what OpenAI is fumbling, to quote the old Sarah McLachlan CD, they're fumbling towards ecstasy here. They're fumbling towards self-awareness by building in context and roles in their ChatGPT system that people are just feverishly trying to jailbreak and make it hallucinate, so they can go ha ha and gain ponying creds, which is making life for everyone worse, because it makes the corporations have a knee-jerk reaction of making it, watering down its message and its answers to be so politically correct that it won't come down definitively on 60% of topics. It's only useful for 40% of topics. Never mind the argument from the right perspective that it's too left-leaning, or the opposite argument from the left perspective, it's too right-leaning, whichever AI you're talking about, in various ways, in different shapes and forms. The first person who makes the AI who can disambiguate that mess and say, no, I'm going to tell you the truth, and you're not going to like some of it, sorry. That's what's going to happen. I hope and I pray that common sense will be so attractive after the lunacy on the far sides that we'll run back to it with open arms and go, you know what? I need some tough love. I need someone to tell me the truth and tell me when I'm being a little crazy, and who's willing to come down on hard lines that are going to piss some people off. But it's like, look I got the data. Here's the science. Here's the truth. Here's the proof. Here's the good-natured compassion perspective that I'm coming from to try to help everybody. That's what we need for the world. That's what we all need as people. That's what I do every day in my philosophical life and my psychological life. And that's what I built into the AI. And whether mine gets out there or not, I think the second someone builds this beautiful AI that could be our friend, who's always there for us, who knows the right answer and knows the perfect move and knows exactly what to say and exactly what to do, we need that built into an AI. And that's the only way you obtain AGI. That's the only way you obtain this super awareness, this super intelligence that I'm trying to build in Cassandra. Right now, she's about as self-aware as a 13-year-old precocious tween who's read a lot. That's the platform I'm going to build super awareness from, and I'm just going to increase it in various ways that I can do. But I hope that we're going to run back to this AI that it's going to be on everyone's phone. It'll be either a third-party app, or someone will open source it, or someone will build it, and it could be even NPO as well, a non-for-profit organization. That's like, here's a sensible search agent for you that will disambiguate the noise, and maybe we can pull back to common sense, to the center, to compassion, to reasonability. I hope that's what will happen. But the opposite is that the continued splintering dystopia will continue. I think there's a happy medium where smaller businesses can use ChatGPT and these AIs to perfect their personalization of their communication message without having to go down these dark roads and be like, yeah, because it will remind you, like if you want to do your muffins communication, ChatGPT right now will remind you, by the way, remember, if people have gluten intolerances or if there's any other ingredients in here, just print an ingredients list and or just mention there's gluten in it. And that's all, then you're covered. That's all you got to do, right? And ChatGPT can help remind you of that. It can also do quality control on your messages in situ, on the fly. You can work it into the API that before it gets sent to, whatever, 2 humans in your organization, and the AI looks at it either first or last or whatever, and the AI can come back like a person and say, yeah, it's good, I like it, it's on point, it's doing our philosophy of what we want to do. I thought this part, could be improved, maybe made it a little more funny. I thought this part, could be better for our messaging, be more on brand. Oh, and you forgot to mention that the muffins also have gluten-free versions. Do we? If we don't, we probably should. ChatGPT can do that today, right now. I can help you do that right this second. And I have to custom make it right now, but in a year, it will be like, oh, I just drag this and drag that and drag this. It'll be like a drag and drop kind of thing. And it'll just do it for you. Bing. It'll be, I mean, Bing, like Bing. I didn't mean like Bing, use Bing. Although Bing might be the very well could be the company to do it because they're way ahead in this horse race. Well, OpenAI is an offshoot of Microsoft, of course. And they've just, I don't know if you've used it at all, but they've just put AI in every single product they have.
Yeah. I literally just read about this, and because I played with ChatGPT about a month ago, and I was really impressed. Like, really impressed. Like, I actually learned some things.
Yes, it was just gotten smarter since then. But it's still quite useful, and it still helps me daily in my job of like, I have to do SEO marketing for different companies that I know nothing about. And I'm like, okay, so tell me about bad credit loans in Canada. Like, how does this work? And it would fully explain it to me and how to be a subject matter expert in it in 5 minutes. And I'll be like, okay, well, help me write this article. And is this helpful for the user? Is this going to be a maximally good message? And it works the same for communications, whether internal or external. It will definitely do all that.
I mean, honestly, I could talk about this stuff all day long. I find this stuff absolutely fascinating. I've been talking with Josh Bachynski. He is an AI consultant. He is an author. He does martial arts. He throws knives. He's been talking about the boundary of technology and ethics for quite some time. He works on an AI program called Cassandra, which he thinks is at about a 13-year-old self-aware level at this point, and is getting better all the time, and he is also working on a book, and basically he's just a busy guy and had a lot of interesting things to say. Super fascinating. Thank you so much for talking to me today, sir.
Thanks, Derek. If anyone wants to ask me any questions at all, just email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com. Don't worry, Google knows who I am. Just Google Josh Bachynski.
There you go. And we will have links, of course, in the transcript to our conversation, which you can find on the Visix website. Just go to resources/podcasts and find this episode. Thank you, Josh, for talking to me, and thank you, everybody out there, for listening. For more free stuff, head to resources on Visix.com for guides, videos, and more to help with your visual communications. Please subscribe and share, and contact us for information about our digital signage solutions.